Hey, good morning, family. Hope you're having an excellent Friday morning. It is beautiful outside, broadcasting live from beautiful Cincinnati, Ohio. A lot of things to talk about today, including my interview with Mike Morosky. He's a Cincinnati school board member, and we've got him scheduled at 9 a.m. And today, at approximately, I think it's 3, I don't want to speak to the time, later on this afternoon, is going to be what'll be the first of a series of meetings and conversations about several new policies, including an anti-racism policy that could possibly be put in place within the Cincinnati public school system. So we'll talk to Mike at 9 a.m. about that. On today's show, I want to talk about numerous things, including why Cincinnati needs Black independent media today more than ever, family. And also join the movement, sign a petition, and stop the weaponization of the Cincinnati Police Department against non-white people. Over 10,000 people have signed. We're on our way to 15,000. I'll talk more about what the next steps are on today's show as well. Good morning. Please share today's show, and we'll get started in less than 1 minute.
There are few times in life to make history. Hamilton County was founded 230 years ago, but has never elected a Black county treasurer. It's time for change. Elect a proven, trusted, experienced candidate for Hamilton County Treasurer, Charlie Winburn. We know Charlie, and he knows us. Charlie Winburn was the former chairman of the Jobs and Growth Committee on Cincinnati City Council under the Honorable Democrat Mayor Mark Mallory. Winburn led the fight to keep 2,000 U.S. postal jobs in Cincinnati. He also fought for wage increases for thousands of city employees, especially our sanitation workers. Charlie Winburn will safeguard more than $1.4 billion in real estate taxes and will increase new home ownership and new jobs. On Tuesday, November 3rd, vote Charlie Winburn for Hamilton County Treasurer. Let's make history together.
I am Charlie Winburn, and I'm asking you for your vote, paid for by friends of Charlie Winburn.
Stereophonic sound for the home is recorded on 2 separate tracks, each one giving special emphasis to certain sections of the orchestra, as heard from those positions. Now, when played back simultaneously on 2 separate systems, the sounds are blended together to achieve a new dimension in sound, impossible to obtain in a monaural recording.
All right, good morning, family. Welcome back. It is a beautiful Friday morning. I'm not sure what your plans are. I mean, we're living in these COVID-19 days and times, so perhaps you don't have any plans. You're going to stay in this weekend. Hey, good morning to you. Welcome back to the Nathan Ivey Show, where nothing is funnier than the truth. Men are expected to be men, and of course, sucker MCs get dealt with. If you want to test the limits of a dangerous force, which is your own opinion, 513-873-7134. Coming up today at 9 a.m. in less than an hour, we're scheduled to speak with Mike Morosky, who's a Cincinnati School Board member. He's going to walk us through how policy and procedures are put in place with CPS, and also talk a little bit about the new anti-racism policy proposals. We talked about this yesterday. Today is going to be the start of a series of conversations, and I want you to have as much information as possible so you can be as effective as possible when it comes to the lives of our students. They are the future. If you want to share your thoughts, you've got the number. You can also chime in via the Spreaker Network. Good morning, everybody. There's numerous ways to interact with the show. We're on Facebook Live, obviously, for many of you are on Facebook this morning. We're on YouTube, where you can listen and interact on YouTube as well. Also leave comments if you're a YouTube kind of person. In terms of audio, we're on the Spreaker Network. Viva La Chapas. Hope you're doing well. And also on the TuneIn Network. So you got multiple ways. Hopefully one of those will fit your style and your normal routine. You can also check out the Nathan Ivey Show. So please like and subscribe. If you're on YouTube, hit that bell, like and subscribe. If you're on Spreaker for the first time, subscribe as well. That way you get a push notification. If you're on Facebook, right now I'm doing it on my personal page. I'm at 5,000, but if you follow me, you would also get a notification as well. And same thing on TuneIn. You can subscribe to and follow the show on TuneIn as well. Good morning to you. Numerous things to discuss. I'm not even sure where to start. But in general, I want to have a long-running conversation throughout many topics as I interweave between serious and less serious topics this morning about how I believe that, in my opinion, that Cincinnati needs independent Black media today more than ever. More than ever. Good morning, everybody. And at the top of that list in terms of examples is the fact that finally, the Cincinnati Enquirer has decided to write about the shooting that Bruce Hoffbauer, who is a white male, he is currently running for Hamilton County Sheriff, and he was involved in this back in the 90s. Now, of course, the Nathan Ivey Show broke that story. You know me, I'm not the kind of person to not say, I told you so. And if I don't give myself credit, nobody else is. So, yeah, we broke the story here. And I wasn't expecting for the Enquirer or anybody else to give us any credit. It is what it is. I did it because I want the public to know and to be aware of the people who want to be in leadership positions. But I got a chance to read through this story, this article written by Kevin Grasha, and it leaves me less than satisfied. I must tell you this, less than satisfied. And the details of it, finally, the Enquirer is finally catching up to independent Black media. I want to say it again. They are finally catching up to what we talked about over a month ago. Finally. And, on some levels, well, we'll get to all things. But, the story appears to be fact-based, although there's some quotes in here, at least one that kind of stick out to me that, in my opinion, should have been corroborated before it was added to the story. There's different levels of journalism. And I'm just glad the fact that the story is being put out there by mainstream press. And they're finally talking about this because I think it is important in a post-George Floyd world. So back in 1990, Bruce Hoffbauer, who was a police officer at that time, he was armed, along with another officer, encountered a man named Willie Brown. And Mr. Brown did not have a weapon. And apparently he charged Bruce Hoffbauer along with his partner in a hallway. And Bruce Hoffbauer felt as if his life was in danger and fatally shot this man. Now, the way that Bruce tells the story and the way that Kevin Grasha wrote this story is that this is a so-called example of suicide by cop, which I always hate that, because police officers are supposed to protect the public, themselves, and also protect people from themselves. Stop me when I'm wrong. They're supposed to protect people from themselves. So if you're encountering somebody that does not have a weapon, again, by today's standards, people might look at it differently. But back in the 90s, we all know you had a lot of racist systems that were in place that would exonerate white officers no matter what they did. We know that to be true. We know that to be true. Hey, John. Hey, good morning, brother. Just hold on tight, brother. I'll bring you straight on. Set up the show. And we know it to be true, a lot of racist systems. And I wonder if it was such a racist system that was always, pro-cop in almost any scenario that ultimately exonerated Bruce Hoffbauer, in my opinion. Again, by today's standards, he might be judged differently. But I thought it was very, very interesting the way this article was written. It was almost as written as if Bruce Hoffbauer was in Kevin Grasha's back pocket, whispering in his ear as he was writing it, quite honestly. I'm going to reach out to Kevin Grasha to see if he won't come into the show and kind of talk about and kind of walk us through his thought process as he wrote this story, including at the very end, there's like a quote from Bruce Hoffbauer when Bruce Hoffbauer is talking about Willie Brown's mother, who at this point, I don't know if she's dearly departed and moved on to the afterlife, but she wanted to see where it happened. She was never once mad at the police or me. That really? Bruce Hoffbauer says this. What else you expect him to say? I thought that was quite interesting. The very end, again, this story is written as if because you do drugs and because you may have cocaine in your system and because you might be suicidal, it's okay for the police to kill you if you're unarmed. That's how this story is written, in my opinion. In my opinion, the way this story is written, it kind of like opens the door for police and makes excuses for police to kill unarmed people. That's how it's written. Oh, it was only 3 feet of space. Is this on the screen right here? Let me put it on the screen for you. You can see this for yourself. Yeah, I see this. In my opinion, black independent media in the city of Cincinnati. Cincinnati desperately needs that. And if you look at the quality of the voices that are out there in that independent media space, I would say that they are across the board top notch in terms of their overall approach, what they're trying to do, and the information that they bring out. I'll say it again. The internet is the future. Okay. All of the strongest and realest voices are on the internet primarily. And a lot of that, there's a lot of reasons why. I mean, a lot of that has to do with just ownership. Black folks have been traditionally locked out of ownership when it comes to big radio stations and big television stations and things like that. So the internet, which has been a level playing field before net neutrality was destroyed. I want to talk about that as well because there's been some news by Spectrum. You get your internet or your cable. Maybe you don't have cable now, but you get your internet services from Spectrum. Well, just like I told you, we're living in a post-net neutrality world. And without getting all into it, net neutrality basically is a regulation that prevents your internet providers from having total control over their internet services, meaning data caps. Like how many consumers like data caps? A data cap is where you pay, let's say you pay $30 a month for your internet, but it's not unlimited. It means that at some point you're going to use it so much, they're going to start throttling you down, or you reach a threshold in which they start charging you more. That's just them doing. That's just a business decision. The internet doesn't really work like that. It's free and open. But the big telecommunications, the internet service providers, they were able to successfully influence the Trump administration, and Ajit Pai, who is the chairman of the FCC, overturned these rules. And I want to make sure we talk about this as we get ready for 2020 November election, because there is a huge difference between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. And I'm not saying that Joe Biden, you have to vote for whoever. I'm just telling you that when it comes to your internet freedoms, right? When it comes to regulating the people that provide your internet services so they don't charge you more, throttle down your services because you're reaching some arbitrary data cap, there is a big difference between the two. One of those candidates is pro net neutrality and the other is not pro net neutrality. I'm talking about Donald Trump. He is not for net neutrality. He's for the internet companies like Spectrum having total control over your internet capabilities, which I think is a threat to independent media everywhere. But I'll get more in depth and perhaps bring some guests on who have more of an expert view on it so we can break this down, because it's one of those issues that is important to everybody, because everybody uses the internet. We all have the internet, right? Whether it's on your phone or you're using it from home, it is very, very important. And it should be a campaign issue, in my opinion. But good morning to you. 513-873-7134. If you'd like to share your thoughts. Alicia, she writes, God's morning, Nathan and the Choppers. Hey, good morning to you. As always. Good to see you. Good to see you. Where are my manners, man? You know what? I got to go straight to the Choppers. Where are my manners? I know it's a Friday, but no, I can't lose my manners. I got to go to the Chop Shop first. Ashley writes, good morning, Nathan and the Choppers. Good morning to you.
Get to the chopper!
Keith is in the house. He writes peace and blessings on this Friday. It is a Friday. It's beautiful, too. It's beautiful outside. Go out and take a walk, visit a park, and enjoy your day as much as you can in these COVID-19 days and times. Brenda writes, happy Friday. Mason Mahler writes, morning, Nate and the Choppers. Hashtag spay and neuter all wolves. Free Chris Matthews. Free Dr. Fauci. Hashtag 99% of my flows are harmless like the virus. Hashtag free Herman Cain vaccine. Okay. Miss Tiffany writes, good morning. Fox writes, rise and shine, stars. Young stars. Good to see you, Fox. Angela writes, salutations. Brian writes, morning. Mrs. Love Being Black writes, good morning, fellow beautiful Choppers. Hold on one second. Let me put the folks up on the screen here. All right. Make it a little bit more interactive for you. There it is. Boom. Can you see that? She writes, spell check independent. I will. You know what? I got spell check on my computer. It doesn't work, obviously. But thank you for that. I appreciate it. Means you care. I appreciate it. Pat writes, good morning. Tracy writes, hi. Sharp writes, good TGIF, Nate and the Choppers. Jada's no good cheating heart. See, we doing that today. Again, it's not cheating, is it? If her husband says it's okay. August Alsina said he sat down with Will. They had a conversation. That's not cheating. But I get your point. He writes, who feels like cussing on their phone? Who feels like being disgusted by the dopeness and uniqueness of the alt middle? Well, if you feel like cussing, hopefully don't call me, because we have children watching, including my own. CG Dub writes, good morning, Choppers. Deborah writes, good morning, good people. Tanika writes, good morning, Nate and the Choppers. Good morning to you. Good morning to you. How are you?
Get to the chopper!
Deborah writes, yes, I have Spectrum's cable and internet service. Okay, well, in particular, you'll be interested in this. Let me find this article for you real quick, because Spectrum is asking the FCC to allow them to start using data caps. And I read a little bit of what they had. I read the entire article, and it was a little of the article, or a little of what they actually sent to the FCC was in the article. And I thought it was quite interesting. So data caps is basically like you pay $40 a month. They give you a set amount of bandwidth or gigabytes to use in that month for everything you do. When you reach this data cap, they throttle you down so that your internet services get slower. And then if you want to go beyond that, you got to pay more. The internet doesn't really work that way. This is nothing more than a business model that's being used by telecommunications and internet providers to make more money. That's all it is. It's a way to squeeze more money out of the people. And people talk a lot about what Obama did and didn't do. I always give Obama props. At least he protected the internet. It was the Obama administration that put net neutrality in place, because the telecommunications company, they wanted to start data capping and throttling down your services to make it slower when you reach some kind of artificial cap. Now, there's some internet providers who have pledged to never do that, like Cincinnati Bell. This is not an endorsement. I'm just telling you. For me, I currently use Spectrum as well. For me, if they do that, of course, I'm going to leave and go somewhere else to a competitor, because ain't nobody got time for that. Don't try to bleed us dry just because the Trump administration took away the regulations. But it's quite interesting how it works, though. Quite interesting how that works, because whoever the party of the president, okay, the party of the U.S. president always has the majority on the FCC. There's 5 seats on the FCC right now. The party of the president always has a majority, which means that majority rules. If they vote, Along party lines, 3-2 is always going to be 2-3, right? That's the way it is right now. Currently, you have three Republicans and two Democrats, and the FCC, along with Ajit Pai, who, to put it all out there, full disclosure, was actually appointed to the FCC by Obama, which was a move that was heavily criticized by, internet watchdogs, consumer protection advocates, and others, because it was well known that he was a creature from the corporate swamp, so to speak. I mean, he cut his teeth with the big telecommunications company. I think he was working for Comcast, and then was appointed to the FCC. And then when Trump came over, became president, Trump made him the chairman of the FCC. So that's the way it works. So it's not like the end is there is no hope for the internet. There is hope with the next election. And of course, Congress, if it could ever agree on something like this, could pass a law. But we'll have to wait and see. I mean, it goes through Congress, then the Senate, then the president. So that might be a long shot. 513-873-7134 if you'd like to share your thoughts this morning. Again, coming up at 9 a.m., we're going to talk with Mike Morosky. And he says he wants to talk about numerous things. He wants to talk about the anti-racism policy proposals, which I shared on my Facebook page, some of the details that he shared on his Facebook page for people who are interested. If you're not interested, you don't care, you don't have a child in CPS, or you don't really give a damn, okay, great. But if you do, you can find the information there. But he also wants to talk about what that process is, the policies and procedures for CPS, so that we, the public, have a better understanding if you want to get engaged on what to expect. Real simple. How are you? Hope you're doing well. Let me go straight back to the Chop Shop this morning. Tony writes, good morning. Joseph Caruso writes, morning, Nate. Good morning to you. Mike Jones writes, good morning, Choppers, TGIF.
Get to the chopper!
CJ writes, morning. Mike Jones writes, Spreaker isn't working on my iPhone. The app keeps closing. I'm sorry about that. I have no control over it at this particular point. But again, typically what I'll do is I'll send a message to the Spreaker network. Sometimes they respond quickly. Sometimes it takes them a while. But my apologies. Hopefully you can go to tune in and check out the show. Now, of course, you can't interact with the Choppers who are on Spreaker, but you can still hear the show. Sister Iris is in house. She writes, good morning, great people. Hey, good to see you, as always. Glenn writes, good morning, Nate, in the Facebook Choppers. Hey, good morning to you, Glenn. Good to see you.
Get to the chopper!
Billy writes, what up, TGIF? Absolutely. Brenda writes, good morning, everyone. Hey, good to see you, Brenda. As always, good to see you. What's up, Billy? Mrs. Love Being Black's on Facebook. She writes, good morning, beautiful people. Good to see you. I see Sandra's in the house. She writes, good morning. Hey, good to see you, Sandra. Greg writes, good morning, good folks. Good to see you. Anthony's in the house. He writes, morning, all. Good to see you. Vince is in the house. He writes, good morning, Choppers, with several S's. Good morning. C. Smith is in the house. She writes, replying to Brian Taylor. Good morning, Brian. Well, good morning to both of you. Good morning. Good to see you. Sandra writes, black media is real. Yes, it is. Brian writes, salute rebels. Morning, C. Smith. Good morning. Steve is in the house. He writes, good morning, good people. Happy Friday. Aaron writes, good morning. Jesse says, no sound. You're the only one, Jesse? No one else is saying that. Hopefully you don't have any issues here. Looking all good on my side. Cleopatra Jones writes, rise and shine, Choppers. Good morning to you. Carmelita writes, good morning, Nathan. Good to see you, Carmelita. Everett writes, good morning. Have a good Friday. I will try my best. Charles is in the house. He writes, grand risings, Nate and Choppers. Good to see you.
Get to the chopper!
Misty writes, good morning. And heck yeah, we need our own. But how when the Jewish people own the media and censor people when they speak the truth about what's really happening to our people? That's the internet. That's the internet. The internet is an amazing leveler. It's an amazing level playing field where if you create content that people like, people will tune into it. And there are many, many, many internet-based, black-owned new media shows, companies. It's great. You go on YouTube. You can see and connect with people all over the world that are building audiences. Corporate media has, in my opinion, in general, turned its back on black audiences. There's a few exceptions here and there. And, you've got, the Black News Channel, which I wish they were more internet-based because they're not on. I don't have cable right now. I cut the cord a long time ago. It just seemed redundant, right? I can get all the same information and stay up just as much on all my shows by using less expensive measures. So why should I pay for that, right? I know many of you, the statistics say, feel the same way. I get it. But that's why we have to support net neutrality, learn about, what that means, and the impact that it has on independent media. Okay, we need to make sure we protect that. That's the very reason why the Republicans and other forces, corporate-friendly forces, are on the opposite side of net neutrality, because it benefits them over independent voices like this show and others, in my opinion. Daryl writes, what up, Nate? Hey, good to see you. Erica writes, good morning. Good morning to everybody. Greg writes, Nate, what is your current status on sending your daughter back to Walnut Hills High School? And what is your thought on Cincinnati Digital Academy? That's a damn good question. My thoughts right now are split. I'm split, I'll be honest with you. Half of my heart wants her to go to the Cincinnati Digital Academy, okay? Because I think that there is a lot of unknowns and a lot of questions that have yet to be answered and even asked as to how this is really going to work, when people start to go back to school. Logically speaking, if the world outside of the public school system is now seeing an uptick in an increase in people who are infected, it only makes sense that if we get a whole bunch of students to get back into a building along with the teachers and administrators and all the support staff, then logic just tells me that could be like an incubator, a petri dish, if you will, for the disease to spread. It just makes sense. It just makes sense. On the other side of me is observing my now 15-year-old, is that she's really missing that social element. But what's more important, the social element or her not catching COVID-19? And if she catches COVID-19, how will her body process it? One way I'm dealing with it, and the way that I would encourage any parent and any person to deal with it across the board, is to do whatever you can to build your own body's immune system. That means understanding, good gut probiotics, understanding what it means to build up your immune system. 70 to 80% of our body's immune system is in our gut. It's in our stomach. So building up all of the good gut bacteria, right, is what we should be doing right now. Making sure you're eating good foods, making sure you and your child are exercising, getting enough sleep. But very, very important is eating the right foods and making sure they're getting good gut bacteria, right? So yogurt is one of those kind of things, but a lot of people eat the wrong yogurt. You're eating yogurt that's got gelatin fruit, not even real fruit anymore, fruit byproducts at the bottom of it, 15, 20 grams of sugar. That kills the good gut biotics in the yogurt. So you're actually just eating something without all the healthy, side effects and benefits of it. So, understanding what it means to eat healthy, what it means to build your immune system is what we should be doing, because that's the most natural way to fight against any disease or anything else. That's one thing that everyone can do right now. Like, you feed your kids food every night, right? Okay, then. So understand what they need to eat to be as healthy and as strong as possible. That's one thing we should do. So that's what I'm doing at home with my children. I have 2 kids that'll be attending Cincinnati Public Schools in the fall. So I'm worried about both of them. Am I against the idea of her going to the Cincinnati Digital Academy? No, I'm not. So my heart is split, but I'm also taking a wait and see approach and monitoring deadlines. I mean, this is early July. By the end of July, things could change. Things could swing one way or the other, and that could change my opinion, just to answer your question, Greg. But one thing we can all do, right, to all the teachers, all the administrators and support staff, build up your own immune system. Get the hell off the couch, stop eating bad food, and get your body ready to get back out there in the world and be interacting with different individuals and germs and all kinds of stuff. That's what you can be doing. But if you don't do that and you go back into these scenarios, you're going to set yourself up for possible failure, quite honestly. Woody writes, happy rising, brother Nate and the Chopper. Stay safe. Good morning to you, Woody.
Get to the chopper!
Y'all sick of that yet? Let me know when you're sick of that. Let me know. Jesse writes, you're good now. Thank you, Jesse. Good to see you, brother. Thank you for everything, man. All the likes and shares. I appreciate it. Rebel Williams writes, good morning. What's up, Rebel? Where is it has been a minute. Y'all, I ain't even gonna mention it, man. That was such a great shows, man. Two great shows. Oh man. Man, that was great. Well, it's good to see you. Good to see you. Thank you for being here. Good morning to you. I can say two names and y'all will know, but I won't do it. We'll just move on. Karen writes, good morning, all. Hey, good to see you, Karen. I'm sorry, Kareem. I get that wrong. My brother's name is Kareem. Good to see you, Kareem, not Karen. Nate writes, peace, brother, from New Orleans. Live in Cincy for 5 years. Appreciate what you do. Hey, good to see you, Nate. Man, what's going on? Are you in Cincy now or are you back in New Orleans, man? Either way, good to see you. Greg writes, my son goes to Walnut Hills High School and my feelings are the same. Although as a dad, health is boss. Yeah, again, one thing we can do is to build, I'll say it again, build up your own immune system. You can do it. That means get you some good bone broth, right? Interject that into your system. If you're going to get you some yogurt that doesn't have any sugar in it. Make sure it's got good probiotics. Make sure it's 100% grass-fed yogurt. I mean, it's going to cost you more in the short term than maybe some of the cheaper varieties, but you don't want to eat that. 90% of that yogurt that's in at the grocery store is trash. 100% grass-fed, no sugar. If you want to put some sweetener in it, get you some monk fruit. Sprinkle that on it. It's a sugar alternative that won't raise your blood sugar, and it's not going to mess with, you don't want to do too much of anything, but it's not going to have the same effect as white sugar. Cane sugar is killing you. It's death. Stay away from that white sugar. It is killing you. Killing you, literally. Don't eat it. Don't put it in your coffee. Don't put it in your Kool-Aid. Don't be around it. Look at every label. It's killing your gut biotics, and it's killing you. I'm just a small little, just something you can do starting today. Get yourself, if you're a yogurt person, your kids like yogurt, 100% grass-fed, go over to the Whole Foods, buy it over there. Don't get it with the little fruit at the bottom because it's trash fruit. If you want to put fruit in your yogurt, then get you some organic, non-GMO fruit and put it in your yogurt. You don't want that little yogurt jelly mess. If you want to put strawberries or blueberries in your yogurt, put real blueberries in it. Stop cutting corners. Your gut is going to be happy. Your children are going to be happy. You're going to be healthier. Let me see here. What else is going on? I have been in contact with CDA, and it is very interchangeable with the current school. They can go and come back after a quarter, semester, etc., and will still keep their place at Walnut Hills. You're right about that. And that's an option. That's a real option. That's a real option for parents right there. It's something that we're considering, and we will do it. Because my daughter is not an experiment. See, this is going to be a grand experiment in fall. They don't really know what's going to happen. This just ain't school board don't really know. They're not medical doctors. As I understand it, none of the school board members are medical doctors right now. They don't really know. Okay? They're just going by information they're getting from real scientists and real doctors, and they're spitballing it. They're hoping for the best. Like, everybody wants to get back to normal, right? I get it. And so this is where we are. It is what it is. Again, though, when people say that students are missing that social element, I agree 100%. They certainly are. Psychopaths and narcissists prescribe vaccine and masks. Fruit, exercise, veggies, sunlight is not mentioned at all. Why? They will make you sick just to make money. Nathan Ivy, peace, fam. James, you're so right. I mean, I'm sure that the news reports have put it out there like that, but what I hear is wearing your mask. I don't hear a lot about building up your body's natural immune system. And that's something you can do right now. It might cost you a little bit of money, but in the long run, you'll stay out the hospital perhaps. Your body might fight off COVID-19. You don't have to get super, super sick with it. You know what I'm saying? That's what you do. Tony writes, my wife turned me on to that plain Greek yogurt. Not bad after a while. That's the best you can get. 100% grass-fed. That's the best probiotics for your stomach. That's the reason why you eat yogurt, right? It's not just because you like it. It's because you think that yogurt is doing something for you. And it is if you get the right yogurt and you don't kill it by eating a lot of sugar. If you look at the back of it, it's got 15, 10, 20 grams of sugar. Why would you eat that? Don't give that to your children. You give that to your children, then they start bouncing off the walls and you're mad at them because they're acting up. Don't do that to them. Rebel writes, honey and lemon natural fruit detox tea. That's right. A little bit of lemon water every single day does the body good. Danina writes, good morning. Is the curriculum going to stay the same, keep the same rigor Will CDA offer advanced courses, AA, honors, and AP? Parents need to make sure because especially high school students will receive credits. These will be important on their transcripts because they are weighted more than regular classes. She's absolutely right about that. And a question I can't answer right now. All good questions. See, Mary's in the house. She writes, "Good morning, fine people. I am nervous for kids to return to school. Shoot, I'm nervous to return." You know, she's a school teacher. If you don't know Mary Weinberg, yeah, I'm nervous for everybody. I'm nervous for my daughter. I'm nervous for the other students. I'm nervous for the adults. If I had to work in the school building, I'd be nervous as hell. I get it. I understand it 100%. And there's only so much a mask is going to be able to do, right? There's only so much. And then think about lunchtime. Nobody's going to be wearing a mask at lunchtime. The mask's going to come down. They're going to be down on their chin. Everybody's going to be eating and talking and laughing and interrelating and you know, talking. That's what's going to happen. You know it and I know it. And that's something they can't control. There's no way to control that. There's no way to stop that I know of anyway. 513-873-7134 if you'd like to share your thoughts. Fox writes, what is this? Big up my New Orleans crew. That's Fox. Pam writes, "I gave up yogurt, only dairy-free yogurt. Cheese was the hardest for me. I love it on everything, just like hot sauce." Okay. Lynn writes, "I gave up wheat over a year ago. It was a great change for me." Yeah, you want to stay away from that wheat because it's some of that Mansando wheat. They put was it glyphosate, I think. It's basically it's pesticide essentially in the residue of it that they spray on wheat. Wheat's one of the most heavily sprayed of all the things you can eat. If you're gonna buy wheat and bread, get you some of that Ezekiel bread. It's the kind of bread that you can find in the frozen food section. It stays frozen, doesn't have any preservatives. It's actually sprouted wheat, which is better for your digestive system, which is ironic because the bread itself is a little bit thicker, but your body will digest it faster. Doesn't have any of that Monsanto stuff in it whatsoever. If you like sandwiches, you want to give it to your kids, give them that, as opposed to that stuff that they buy, that trash bread that people are buying every single day, and it's killing them. And there's nothing wrong with yogurt. Yogurt is great. You want to get the yogurt with all the fat in it. We need the fat. You just want to get 100% grass-fed yogurt. Now, what does that mean? That means that the cows that produce the milk and the yogurt are 100% grass-fed, and they're not fed with that GMO grain, right? That's what you want. This is why people are getting sick every day. Let's see here. Yeah, I'm just telling you, it is what it is. I want to say thank you, man, to all the folks before I go into the break real quick. Plus, we got John on the line. I want to get to him. But real quick, I want to say thank you to all the people that have signed the petition. At this point, we are over 10,000. I thought we might reach it next week. There it is. And I'm glad to see it. I'm 100% glad to see it. 513-873-7134 is my number. Let me see if I get John on here. John's been waiting patiently, and I appreciate his call. Hey, good morning, John. Welcome to the show.
Excuse me. Good morning, Mr. Nathan Ivy and the good people of Cincinnati, as well as the good people around the world. And yes, the choppers. Good morning, sir.
Hey, good morning, John. Can you talk up just a little for us? That'd be great.
How's that? Is that a little better?
It's not all better, but it's better than it was. Good morning to you. What's on your mind, John?
A couple things before we get into the Supreme Court and their factless decision with Trump and releasing the tax records. You know, you were talking about briefly a little bit about people's health and taking care of themselves. I remember in the early 90s that Minister Farrakhan talked about sugar. He broke it down scientifically. Yes, we know what it tastes like on the tongue, sweets and everything else, but it's a chemical breakdown of the body. I remember reading that article as you were talking. You were talking about sugar in it, that Minister Farrakhan and his nation, his magazine talked about the chemical breakdown and what sugar does to the body. So people be very careful. Eating right, as you talked about, health and everything else. My aunt, which is from the islands, talked about colds and how colds, certain little things you can do to take care of yourself. Vinegar, natural resources, vinegar, honey, your natural honey that comes out as good teaspoon. Vinegar is good for the breakdown. And basically, a flushing of the body out once a month, something my mother used to always make us do when we were young, flushing your system out. And the main thing is exercising, taking the time to exercise. Okay, Chopper, some of us in your late 20s, 30s, 40s, don't run out there and make like you're 18 thinking you can run, play basketball. You got to start out nice and slow. Walking is a good exercise. Some of you that can swim, if you don't know how to swim, go to your local boys club or YMCA. They will teach you how to swim. Swimming is one of the best exercises you can do to the body because you're moving every muscle in your body. And the rest is dieting, you know, getting away from the sweets, the pasta, and all the things that are harming and tearing down your body is very important. But exercising is one good thing. Lay off those sweets. Okay, let's get to the Supreme Court, Mr. Nathan Ivey, and I'd like to hear your comments as you could chime in. On the Supreme Court's decision yesterday, I felt like we were going back in time with Al Gore and George Bush playing paddleball, wasn't making a decision, and they kept shifting to the Florida court to make a decision. It was back and forth, dropping the ball. Nobody wanted to make a decision on a historic decision of stealing the election as we saw the results. Some of your choppers wasn't around or paying attention to the news. They stole the election and just handed the election to George Bush, which he didn't win. Gore was pissed off.
Yeah, we remember. We remember that, John. But let's talk about what's happening now.
But, okay, the Supreme Court, I'd like to hear your calculated decision on what you think.
But one that's a bit off topic. I didn't plan on talking about that today. And I have a guest scheduled at 9 a.m. who I believe is calling in right now. So I'll tell you what, when I finish my guest, call me back and perhaps we can pick this back up. Okay. I do have an opinion about it. I'm aware of it and we can get into it. But I don't want my guests who I previously had invited in to not be able to get onto the show, John. So that's what I think about it. Hold tight, brother. I'll come back to you and let you finish your flow after I talk with my guest. But I'm scheduled to speak with a member of the school board. His name is Mike Morosky. We've got a call on the line right now. Perhaps this is Mike. Good morning and welcome to the show.
Good morning, Nathan. It is Mike Morosky, and I appreciate you having me on.
Well, I appreciate you coming on, Mike. Thank you so much for your time this morning.
No problem. And let me ask you this. Do I sound echoey to you?
Not to me. You don't sound echoey to me. Hold on one second. Perhaps I can do something about that on my end. I know some people do say they hear a little bit of an echo. I don't hear an echo. You sound fine to me.
Let me try this. Okay, that sounds a little better on my end. All right, cool. I'm good.
Okay, all good. So, Mike, just real quick, man, it's the first time we've been talking since I've been doing the show here online. if perhaps
Yeah,
ever.
man.
Tell us a little bit about yourself. I know you're on the school board.
I'm really, I'm on the school board. I'm really proud to be on the show, honestly. I love your show. I listen to your show. I learn a lot from you. So I was excited when you reached out to have me on. So, I'm on the school board in my day job. I'm the policy partnership manager for Cradle Cincinnati. So I end up spending most of my day working on policy that impacts Black maternal health, because that's where the issue is the greatest, right? The racial disparities that we know are everywhere are really prevalent in the infant mortality rate. So that's where I spend my days. Public health policy by day, public education by night, sort of. But yeah, man, it's great to be on the show with you.
How long have you been a school board member?
I've been a school board member since I got sworn in 2018. So 2.5 years. I'll be running for re-election next year when the 4 seats are up. So about two and a half years total.
Okay. All right. We got Mike Morosky, everybody. He's a Cincinnati school board member. If you've got questions or comments, just you can text them in, and I'll try to integrate them into the conversation as much as possible. But Mike, I initially reached out to you maybe about 3 weeks ago to ask about implicit bias and discrimination in terms of, what's happening with the Cincinnati schools. And you said that there were some plans in the works. And I know that later on today is going to be the beginning of a series of conversations about policy, including anti-racism policy. Can you talk about the evolution of that? And what started the ball rolling in terms of the anti-racism policy? And what exactly is going to happen later today, and how can people interact and be a part of it?
That's awesome question. Appreciate it. So first, if it's cool, I'm going to level set a little bit about how policies sort of get created, and then I'll do that very quickly, which I think was kind of baked into your question a little bit, and then sort of the evolution of how we got to this new policy. So I am on the public school board. I'm also, as appointed by my colleagues, the policy chair for the district. So I chair the policy committee as well. The way new policies are created, typically policy committee is a place where we review existing policies and just sort of maintain. It also is a place where new innovative policies can be born, which is, what I've kind of been interested in since I was lucky enough to get the chair position in January. And it's a slow process because we want plenty of community engagement. And so the way that this policy process will work and how we got here and what will happen today is in light of all of the George Floyd, the unacceptable murder of Black men in our community by the police, which I know I feel deeply. I have long not said the Pledge of Allegiance at public board meetings, and certainly won't going forward. I take real issue with all of this. And when we were doing our strategic plan, our 3-year strategic plan, I fought to have the terms racial disparity baked into the plan. And we got there. My friend, I think a mutual friend of ours, Ozzie Davis, when he was on the board, really was vocal about attacking the racial disparities that we see in everything in our district, from discipline, academics, identification of disability, everything, that we put that in the strategic plan. If we don't put that in the strategic plan, we're not going to measure it. So the good news is that is in there. And so taking that as a starting point, after the George Floyd murder and this crazy time where everything is sort of dismantling, which is a good thing, in my opinion, because the system isn't broken. It works the way it was intended to work, which is namely to keep Black folks down so a privileged few can continue to be privileged, that we have an opportunity now to strike and create new systems. As such, at our June 10th board meeting, I assigned to our general counsel the task of investigating anti-racist policies in the country at school districts. There are only a few, actually, and there are none in Ohio, so this would be the first. And to bring a draft to our policy committee meeting that is today, which was a month later. So June 10th, today now, July 10th. So how this works is, and what will happen today, and then I'll pause, is the general counsel office, actually his assistant general counsel, a woman named Stephanie Scott, who just began working at the district, great woman. She did a bunch of research, drafted a 6-page plan, which is just a draft. Today will be presented board members can ask questions. The public can, of course, tune in. I have posted links on my Facebook, my LinkedIn, my Twitter. Feel free, Nathan, to retweet, share, whatever. So people can click and watch the meeting because we're all virtual. And then after today, there will be a month-long process of garnering community input, taking it back to the full board so they can talk about it, so we can get a plan for the district, or policy rather, that is actually enforceable. Because as you know, I don't need to tell you this, and doing policy for a living with Cradle Cincinnati, I know this too. Policies are nice. They can say a lot of nice things, but if there's not language that's in there that makes it enforceable, it doesn't really mean anything, right? Except people can pat themselves on the back, which is not at least what I'm interested in doing. So that's the process. Just so folks know, I think there can be a misconception, and I totally get it, because people aren't super familiar with how public school boards work. I respect that. I don't want there to be a misconception that this is like it. You know, that here's the policy and we're done. This is the very beginning.
Speaking with Mike Morosky. So the woman you said, Stephanie, did she work? How did she draft this anti-racism policy? Was it something that she took input from just suggestions that she had gotten? Was there any input from the community? Or was it just meant to be a start, just to get the ball rolling?
That's right. This was meant to be a start to give people to go off of. So this is a pretty long policy, truth be told. Most policies aren't quite this long. And so she sent me language from, again, there aren't a lot of districts that have a policy like this. There's a district called Abermarley. I don't even know if I'm saying that right. Abermarley County. They have a pretty comprehensive one. Charlottesville has one that I believe was drafted after some of the issues they had. But there really aren't many. And so it was looking at those policies and taking language from our own strategic plan that calls out racial disparities and putting it together. She sent it to me as policy chair. The only piece I added was, hold on a second, I have it in front of me, was about hiring practices. And it was a piece about all candidates being considered for hire within the district will be asked appropriate questions to gauge their understanding of anti-racist practices. Additionally, candidates will be screened for implicit and explicit biases, whether that's the Harvard implicit bias test or what have you. I don't know. I just think it's important that we screen folks for this. Anyhow, but just to start, to your point, it was like, let's put as much as we can out there. And I know you've seen it, and other folks can access it. Again, on any of my social media, or Nathan, you can share it. Feel free, whatever you want.
Yeah, I shared it yesterday.
Living document. Cool. So, invite any and all feedback. I got a lot of feedback from students that I'm going to take to policy committee today. I got some feedback from my posts yesterday. But no, Stephanie and her office, they were just tasked with getting something on paper as sort of like a start.
Yeah, I'm going to put this up on the screen because, like I said, I shared it yesterday, and it is on your social media, and people should take a look at it just to kind of sense of what you guys are thinking about.
district. And so if a parent wants a champion, contact school board members, I think is a good route to go, but it's always best. If it's a classroom issue, an in-school issue, the school board member is probably not going to have a whole heck of a lot of authority there. That said, if the issue is one that we're talking about, like racial disparities in discipline, which we know we have and every district has, urban district has at least, then that is an issue absolutely that needs to be brought to the school board, if that makes sense.
Speaking with Mike Morosky, who's a member of Cincinnati School Board. I just want to put it out there because I've had issues. I've in particular heard issues from other parents who feel as if they kind of stonewall at the school level, with teachers and administrators, and then getting in contact with the assistant superintendent or the superintendent is almost nearly impossible in some cases, unless you're someone with some contacts. Unless you know someone who knows someone or knows, like there's like a degree or two of separation, is nearly impossible. And the assistant superintendent's contact information is not even public. I've searched for it before on the CPS website. Can't find it, right? Unless it's publicized, you don't even know how to get in contact with them. So you have an issue at a school level and, you having issues with the administrators. It's kind of like you're just stuck. You just kind of deal with it in silence. And I think that definitely needs to be addressed in terms of the anti-racism policy because, silence allows these things to continue.
And you couldn't have said it better. I couldn't have said it better myself. And I go to great lengths to make myself available for that reason. I mean, and my email, my personal email is MikeMorosky@gmail. That's MOROSKI, MikeMorosky@gmail. And my CPS public email is MOROSKM@cps-k12.org, which I can text you, Nathan, and you can have and put wherever you want. But I always encourage if folks need to get a hold of someone, accessibility is, I think, important in a government. I think democracy is a two-way street. It doesn't work otherwise. And so I hear you and I feel you. It is difficult, and I think, it is an interesting point you bring up that for an anti-racism policy explicitly to be enforceable, that leaders need to be able to be contacted. So I'm going to log that one away. I think that's an interesting way to think about how to enforce a policy like this when it passes. I'm not going to say if. I believe it will pass. I mean, my colleagues are amenable to this policy going forward, and it'll ultimately be the communities when it's done. Because again, we're going to want to pick this thing apart. So, and I want to get it in front of more students too. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I think students and their endpoint, because it's all about the students, but also parents as well. Having parents that are advocates who are brave enough. I'll tell you, Mike, there's some parents out there, man, that won't say a word because they're afraid of retaliation. Almost as if the school is like a mob or something. If you step out of line with the Godfather, then you're gonna have to be dealing with issues. That's just not the right environment to produce the best quality student, in my opinion.
Well, you can't. Children aren't going to learn well in a culture of fear, which is what I think I hear you say, and I would certainly agree. Because the ones who are going to be disproportionately affected by this are the kids, because whether or not the kids are aware of all the inner politics that we're messing with being adults, they feel it whether they know it or not, right? So I hear that.
Yeah,
I hear that.
Yeah, they're going to feel it from their parents. And I don't know, man. I just think, again, the spirit in which I share this is hopefully a spirit of positive change for the betterment of the environment for the students and also those parents. And I've just seen some things that make me wonder, like, what is this really all about and who's really running the district? We say it's run by us, the taxpayers and the parents, but in practicality, that's not what really happens. It's really run by the administrators. It's kind of like, as long as you're one of their friends or you're cool with them, it's all gravy. But if you challenge them, even if it's legitimate, then all of a sudden you're put on some kind of list and you're like a bad parent, right? And we hear this all the time. I think parents are blamed too much to kind of cover up some of the actions and non-actions of teachers and administrators. But so how do we put teeth?
Well,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, oh no, I was sorry. I was just going to say, and that's why it is important to have an engaged school board. I feel the school board has been open to engagement. We could certainly do better. There's no question. But, I said at a board meeting back last November, with all due respect to the administration, that my role in the district was an extension of the community, not an extension of administration. And I wasn't there to just hear reports and say, okay. You got to have some disruption to have real change. So, I mean, what you're hitting on, I think, is something that my wife, bless her, has to listen to me rant about at home about in the ideal scenario, or not even ideal, in just the right scenario. That's the way this role that I have works, and really any elected role should work, because you have administrators that have hard jobs. They work their tail off. We have good ones. But their job is to keep things going. And to, systems are not designed to change. Systems are designed to self-perpetuate. And the only way you can get a system to self-perpetuate in a different direction, i.e. an anti-racist policy or less of what you're talking about, this culture of retaliation fear, is to disrupt it. And that happens through that extension of community, who, again, not to beat a dead horse, I believe are the elected people in that system. Mm-hmm. So anyway, that's all. So I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to open the door so that, concerned parents, concerned members of the community can be involved with that process. And it sounds like that's exactly the way you're setting it up. As I was looking at some of the agenda items or proposals, one sticks out to me, and that is that all teachers and administrators shall be trained in cultural awareness and or culturally responsive teaching practices. Additionally, they will be trained in anti-racist practices, including but not limited to recognizing implicit bias. So what's been happening? Are teachers and administrators, have they been taught about those such things, including implicit bias, up to this point? Are you saying this is something that needs to start, or we need more of it?
Good question. So it happens already, and I will say, in the spirit of transparency, it has gotten more robust recently. We hired a talent manager, Jenny Mount, who was the principal at Pleasant Ridge Montessori. Now Amber Simpson, formerly at Rothenberg, is up there, which is great. But Jenny, when she came to the central office, she really beefed up our work in that explicit area of sort of implicit bias and recognizing these things. So our teachers go through this training, and that section is sort of an attempt to just sort of codify what already exists. Something I think was important in this policy is things that are already happening. That's good, but if they're not codified, then we don't have any certainty that they're going to continue in like perpetuity or whatever. So things are happening. Certainly they can be better. Certainly they can be more robust. And one thing I'm glad you called out that one little area. So earlier I referenced that I only added that one paragraph that, of course, we're all going to pick apart. So I need all my board members' input. But in that piece, initially it talked about that cultural sort of awareness and competency, and that was sort of it. And this is personal. This is just a personal aside. I am not the biggest fan of cultural competency, that language, because typically how I've seen that actualized is white people get in a room and have a black person come in and talk to them, and then they'll check a box and say they did it, and that makes me kind of uncomfortable. Whereas implicit bias training, racial equity training, anti-racism training, which I've gone through pretty intensely, man, the past year with my job. And I got to tell you, I'm going to keep it personal just for one more second, if that's okay. I was raised by people that taught me to love everybody and to stand up for what's right. So I always thought I was, fairly open-minded guy. And it's been really intense in my 40s to go through this training and realize I don't know anything. Going through implicit bias, racial equity, anti-racism training, it's been really profound for me. So I personally, my work Cradle Cincinnati and doing public health has really, I think, turned me around a little bit. But one of the things I came to realize was a lot of these, when I was a classroom teacher or assistant principal back in the day, a lot of those trainings were BS.
Right.
And yeah. So anyhow, I think it's important to use the right words, or else you're just going to get watered down, stuff.
No, Mike, you're right, man. I've done a lot of those BS trainings in my away from radio and sort of professional development. And, you go in after lunch and you're there for 3 hours. That's all BS. That's all BS.
Yeah.
The real training in that area, you're there for a week. And when you leave, you're exhausted and you've been challenged, right? In a safe environment, but you've been challenged, right?
Yeah.
We're going to go up after lunch. We're going to go for training for 2 hours and everybody goes home. That's nothing. That's a waste of time. That's just like checking off a box. Like, yeah, we did it. So, I mean, again, which have the Cincinnati teachers and administrators been doing? Have they been doing like the checking off the box one, or has it's been something that's been intensive that really challenges their implicit bias?
I think, I'm not going to pretend to know every single thing that's going on, because that would be a little maybe in the weeds for like where my role is. But I think a lot of it is box checking, and it's not bad stuff, right? But to your point and to what I was saying, it's not super intense. A lot of it's been box checking, but I really do believe since Jenny has gotten there, we've started taking steps to getting deeper with it and looking at racial equity, over, cultural competency. And one other thing I got to give a plug for our teachers. We've got a set of teachers that are extremely active in this area right now and really pushing for it. There's a teacher at Woodward named Andrea who's really done a hell of a job organizing students to lobby us, the school board, saying, the schools that have a lot of white kids get more stuff than us. What's going on with that? We demand more guidance counselors, for example. And she's really like, it's something. It's not, let's go talk to the school board. It's like, let's go with the budget numbers and throw them in Mike Morosky's face and say, what the hell's going on here? And it's been powerful and it's had results. So I think we're starting to see more of that too, coming from the students and teachers, which is powerful. So not coming, and the reason I bring that up is because as you know, and I know, it's a lot different when the teachers and especially the kids and especially the families are saying, we want this, as opposed to, a central office or a school board saying, here's what you have to do. And so I think, in a lot of ways too, having a policy like this that codifies that stuff is in many ways responding to that. And I think this is the right time to do it, because we have an opportunity while all of our systems are fragile, and this system's already fragile, but it's really fragile right now with all of these cuts. While all of these systems are fragile, and the city of Cincinnati has an opportunity too, with the police force and how they think about that. I hope they think differently about it, but that's not my job, so I'll leave it alone. But while these systems are kind of fragile, we have an opportunity to change them. Unlike any time since I've been an adult, at least. So to answer your question again, I'll sum up, circle back. A lot of it is box checking. It is, but it's good, but it could be better. But we are definitely approaching some really intensive new areas, which is exciting. And again, I've got to give Jenny another shout out. She's been instrumental in that.
I was speaking with Mike Morosky, who's a member of the Cincinnati School Board. And today is going to be opening a conversation about new policies, including a policy on racial equity with the Cincinnati school system. And the door is open for you, the public, to be involved. I got some questions from the audience, Mike. Amanda writes, the training he's speaking of is all optional, though. It doesn't reach anyone who isn't personally interested. So I think part of that could be making it mandatory. Like if you want to teach in our schools, then this is what you have to do.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I should have brought that up. So thanks, Amanda, for bringing that up. Yeah, and in this policy, that's kind of what it speaks to, that this is, if the policy passes, and again, the draft we're talking about is not the draft that will be passed. But if some version of it passes, it essentially starts with your job interview. and then continues throughout, your tenure with us, that this is a constant learning process. And again, just speaking as a white dude, and who I think is a fairly woke white dude, but learned in my 40s that not only am I not, I can't be woke, but what I can do is I can work as hard as I can and learn and constantly accepting that I don't know anything. In doing so, somewhat liberating, then constantly open myself up to learning and learning and learning. And I think that's the important piece, is that if you start at Cincinnati Public Schools, in your interview, you begin talking about racial equity, and you begin accepting the fact that there's not a system in America where anyone underperforms black or outperforms white. That's a problem. And then throughout your tenure with us, we will help you continuously learn. And so Amanda is correct. It is optional. And that is a piece that I think, this policy, when adopted, could, and actually, I'm going to make a note of that right now that I'm talking about it. So I'm going to write it down. I got a list of notes for our policy committee today, and I'm going to bring that up. That language about mandatory training is pretty sound. So, and just a quick reminder, Nathan, I want to take a couple more questions, but I will have to hop off here soon. But I want to take a couple more questions.
Okay, I appreciate it. I am aware of that. Let's see here. Nichelle wants to know once the policy is enacted, what is the timeline for implementation? Will this take place for the next school year?
So I hate answering questions that I don't have exact or close to exact answers. And this is one of those questions, but I'm going to go ahead and do it anyway. So just please give me some grace. Some policies like the face mask wearing policy, that's going to be brand new. I have a feeling that'll get done pretty quickly, right? Our equity policy, I think, had like 8 different drafts before it got complete a number of years ago. I imagine this policy taking some time. So during next school year, certainly. I imagine during the 2021 school year, certainly. By the beginning of the school year, August 24th, absolutely not. But it'll be somewhere in there, because I feel as if this policy has a lot of interest, as it should, because this is the most important issue in our society, and it has been for 400 years, and now we're finally ready to talk about it. And so I think it's going to take a while. So I hesitate to give a number of months, but I would say next school year, but definitely not by August 24th, because we're going to want to take our time and get input, and my colleagues and I need to talk about it.
I understand. Jordan has a comment, and I have a question about the face mask policy, and I know that your time is short. Jordan says, I wouldn't want my child to have a white teacher who hasn't been through any type of implicit bias training. And you know what? As a CPS parent, I agree. I agree 100% with that. I think that's the sentiment of a lot of black parents, quite honestly. Then my question is, Mike, what if we go to school, kids go back to school, we know what the plan is for CPS. What if we see a spike in the numbers? Is CPS prepared for us to go back to a digital learning situation with all of the students? Is that the plan B?
Yeah, it's a great question. And so one of the things that we are going to do with our 90-day appropriation, so we're not passing our full budget until the fall. It just didn't feel prudent to pass, a full budget, not entirely knowing what things would look like. So that being said, dollars and cents wise, we'll be investing quite a bit in our remote learning digital capacity devices for kids. Every kid will have a device. Every kid will have Wi-Fi. And so as we implement the plan we selected last week, the administration's working to implement that plan, but at the same time, concurrently, they're developing a plan to have to do that. Because between us, this is just my opinion. It's not an official anything. The question is not when will things get back to normal. The question is when will we close down again, as we look at, the rates of the cases, particularly in Hamilton County. So, yeah, we'll be ready to pivot. And I hate to say when we have to. That sounds kind of defeatist, but so I'll say if and when, I guess, we have to, we'll be ready to go. Furthermore, our teachers are undergoing training this summer. We did as best we could in the spring. It was a tough situation, and we realized, here's an opportunity going forward to invest in people and help, people learn new skills, et cetera, when it comes to distance learning. So we'll be ready to go if we have to again. Hopefully we won't, but things, you've been out there, Nathan, I've been out there. I don't know if people are taking this seriously as maybe I would like them to, at least. So we'll see.
Well, Mike, I know your time is short. I appreciate you. Hopefully we can, now that we've connected, we can keep an open line of communication, with my audience and the community. Because again, what happens today is just the beginning. Again, how can people, it's not a Zoom. I think you guys are using Blue Jeans as the application.
That's right.
How can people, be a part of it or actually interact and see what's going on today?
Cool. So number of ways. Easiest way for everybody would probably be just to go to the Cincinnati Public Schools website, and on the home page, scroll down, and you'll see the hyperlink to the policy committee meeting. That's the easiest way. And then way number 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, if you are connected with me on any of my social media outlets, I've posted it 100 times. So just go check out one of my pages, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, all the Gen X stuff. I don't have any of the, I don't have the Snapchat. I actually do have it, but I don't use it. But the Cincinnati Public Schools webpage, go all the way down, click the link. Look forward to seeing you. We will have public comment today. And so, come with your opinions, want to hear them, and look forward to the beginning of what I think is going to be a great process, man, and result in something good for the community.
Well, Mike, thanks for your time, and we'll be in contact. Have a good day.
All right, man. Thanks, Nathan.
Yep,
you too.
Absolutely. Thank you for your time. And thank you for being here, Choppers. I couldn't get everything in. He only had 30 minutes. He had other business to take care of at 9:30, and we couldn't possibly get all the questions in. But again, I take people for their word. They say they want to get public comment. Let's give them some public comment then. They say they want to get some input from the community. Well, let's give them some community input then and hold them accountable to it and see what happens. If they're crafting a new racial equity policy, let's be a part of it in a meaningful way and give the ideas and the input that we think that we really want to see put in place. All right. I think the time is now for that. For folks who got good ideas, send them to them. Hold them accountable. Some great questions, though. Jasmine writes, besides the training, what are the measures to show that teachers are actually comprehending the training and changing their behaviors based on what they are learning? That's the follow-up to the training. The training isn't enough. And raise your hand if you've ever done like any kind of racial diversity, racial equity training. I mean, I have before with jobs away from media. Okay. Just raise your hand if you've done it before. How many times you ever did something that's kind of like you get there at 10, you're out by 3, you have lunch in the middle, you have a little break, you come back, everybody's like, they're tired and sleepy, they do a little exercise, everybody stands up and they do something, they play a little video. That's BS training. Like real training challenges you. You're going to feel emotionally drained. You're not going to be able to sit back in the corner and just kind of like think about the clock, right? You're going to be challenged by the presenter. Not all presenters are the same. Not all presenters have the same capabilities. I've done some trainings where I was sitting here like, why am I here? I've done other trainings, although very rare, in which the content, the structure, and the presenter were so dynamic, so interactive that it forced me to be involved with it. That's the kind of training that we need. No more BS training that wastes a lot of time and money. And it should be mandatory. I agree with Jordan. Mandatory, or you can't work here, period. Across the board, all administrators, all teachers, if you're interacting with our children and our babies, then this is what you need to be doing. And then back to Jasmine's point, boom, how can we hold you accountable after the training to measure whether you're comprehending it? Then to Ron's point about the trauma piece, I wish I'd have got that question in, Ron. I saw it a little bit late, but I mean, how many of our children are going to school and they've been traumatized or they're dealing with the after effects of trauma? How does that inform and shape their behaviors and even their learning ability when they're in the classroom? I think that's huge. I think now is the time to once again reintegrate it, represent it, and hold them accountable if possible, when possible. But I think that there is a lot. And again, it's not to say that everybody that works for CPS is a bad person. I know people very well. I have close personal friends who are administrators. who are teachers, good people, right? We're talking about the problem areas, right, to address that. And the CPS should not run like the mafia, where you're afraid to speak your mind. And if you do, then everybody's going to take it out on your kid. All of a sudden, your kid's in the office all the time because every little thing they want to try to make it a big deal because they really don't like the mama and the daddy, right? The hell is this, the mob? No, it is not the mob. So I promise, and I'm going to take his phone call before. Sorry about that. Before we take a break, I promised I would bring John back on. John, I didn't want to have to cut you out so abruptly, but I'm glad you called back in, brother. Hey, John, you there?
Yes, I'm here.
All right.
That was an excellent interview that you did with the guests and some violent information that hopefully the choppers and the people across the country, as well as the world, can observe and bring in. Let's get back to the Supreme Court decision, but really quick before we get back to the Supreme Court, I want to hear your comments. I know some of the choppers are chiming in, calling and writing and concerned about their kids going back to school. I think I don't have a family. I don't have any kids, but if I did, God help me, I will not allow my kid to go back to the school. With this virus out there, number one, before the virus popped up, we know when kids go to school, they're running, they're playing, they're picking up coughs and germs and coming back home, passing it on to families and loved ones. Now you got a serious virus out there that can possibly kill you. Do you want to risk your kid to go into school, come home with that virus? The parents are going to pick it up, or the grandparents, neighboring people in and out. No. Do you want to gamble your kids' lives as well as yourself? No. Until this government comes down with that vaccine, which won't be till next year, we'll deal with Trump and the blood on his hands, because he has blood on his hands, his whole administration. We'll deal with that later. But for now, it's about your kids and it's about you. Do not allow your kids to go into that school system. Hey, they can easily do this online, which is what's going to happen. Visual online schooling is happening. It's before our eyes. Anybody with the technology can make tons of money if they know how to use it. That's where all of this thing is really going to go. It's happening across the country, around the world. America is late to the dance. Trump wants one thing, is to, as far as I'm concerned, kill off the base of people because this election is coming down. And who is this election going to affect the most? The number of people, which is African Americans. We'll get into that a little bit later. We don't have the time to deal with that today.
No, we don't have the time to deal with that today, John. Thank you for saying that.
But it's all about the Supreme Court, the Supreme Court's decision, and I'd like to hear your decision on did they make the right decision last night, or did they play tennis and flip it back to the lower house?
And what was the decision again? They decided that, so the Supreme Court blocked Congresses, that's the Democratic majority Congress, and their attempt to get their hands on Trump's tax records. Was that what we're talking about here?
Well, they didn't quite block it, no. They kind of said to Trump in a nice, delicate way, you are not immune from the decision. If the average taxpayers have to present their tax papers, what makes you think you're king of the world, Genghis Khan or Caesar? The Roman Empire is falling before us. But they said to present it. He could drag it out all he wants. He'll have to do it. This is the New York lower court that presented the case to the Supreme Court. And they said, that, okay, Trump is going to drag this thing out. He's not going to present it. It's not going to happen until after, if he leaves. If not, if he's reelected, stranger things can happen, people. We know what happened to Hillary.
Yeah.
We don't have time for that.
Yeah, for me, John, this is more of an issue if he gets reelected. If he's not elected, he's out of here not 4 months. He's out of here in January, right? When the new president is inaugurated and sworn in. So, I mean, I think it's interesting. I wish that we had a president. See, one thing about Trump and the reason why his supporters love him is that Trump If Trump sees something, a rule he doesn't like, he just breaks it until he's forced not to. I wish we had a president who was willing to do that, had that kind of moxie and that kind of style, but for the people, not for his own narcissistic interests, right? You know, that's what working class voters, that's what black voters deserve. We deserve a president that's willing to challenge all boundaries at all times, at any cost, right? For the betterment of the people and not just for himself.
Yes. But that does not happen because we have a factless Congress and Senate. We have, once again, the people have to take the blame to this too. The people, we the
You mean
people
people like you, John, who voted, who wrote in Zorro? I mean, yeah, I mean,
no,
you're right. The people who wrote in Zorro, people who didn't vote, people who said Hillary's just like Trump. You're right. They are to blame for this. I mean, because he was elected.
Yeah.
You know, we had a choice. I haven't learned anything about Trump in these last 4 years that I didn't already feel before he was elected. That's why I didn't vote for him. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of this is, you're right. The people are to blame for this because people either voted for him, right? Caught up in their emotions, not really thinking it through, or they didn't vote at all, caught up in their emotions, not really thinking through. And then they want to criticize and complain what he does in office. But this is who he is. He was this guy before he was elected. I haven't been surprised by anything he's done. Have you?
No, I am not surprised because before I left New Jersey to move to Florida, I've watched him for 30 to 40 years. He's a scoundrel. He's a snake. He lies. He doesn't pay back millions of dollars of taxpayers' money that he steals from the bank, and they don't hold him accountable.
He was doing all of this stuff before he was elected. That's why people didn't vote for him. They voted for the other candidate. That's the reason why. He had a problem with black people before he became president. He had a history of racial discrimination lawsuits when it came to his apartment buildings in New York. He had a history of this. It wasn't a surprise. We knew who he was, right? And now we're getting exactly what we deserve.
Well, it's the hillbillies and the white supremacists on the left and the right that thought, we're sick and tired of Republicans and Democrats. Let's just put in a businessman that could come and change this.
Right. I remember that.
You're blowing it. You're blowing up your damn nose, you fool. And those same hypocrites are dropping like flies with this virus.
But John,
and I'm hearing someone.
But John, you wrote in Zorro. You didn't write in a credible candidate. You blew it off just like the hillbillies. Thought it was a joke. I got to hold you accountable, brother to brother. You wrote in Zorro, brother, 4 years ago. How was that helping anything?
I was a part of that 40 to possibly 60% of the American people that didn't vote for Hillary. They didn't vote for him. They stayed home and said, I'm not happy with none of this.
All right. So then you have to, and I respect that. Okay. It is what it is. We already had a conversation, but now don't complain about it. It is what it is. It's what you wanted. This is what you get when you sit out the election. Other people make a decision, and these other people decide to make him the president, and he's going to be president until he's elected out. So are you prepared? Are you registered coming up for November, bro?
I am registered here in Florida. I don't know yet if I'm going to vote because I want to hear what Biden has to say. And did you see that press conference he did last night? Did you watch the press conference?
Biden? No, I didn't. I didn't watch it.
They're talking about putting American people to the big flag behind us. You think the kids haven't watched that? He did like a 20 or 30 minute speech on how if he's elected president, I'm going to put people back to. In other words, he took a platform, a page, or a program from Elizabeth Warren's play game and said he's going to put the American people to work. He didn't go into too much details because he don't want to slip his hand and let Trump and his people steal what he's going to do. But he gave a speech about putting American people to work. I have a problem with that. The problem with what he was talking about, and you can see it on YouTube, he said nothing about the virus. You think people are going to go back to work, and you haven't cured this virus or come up with a vaccine? What the hell is he talking about?
Listen.
I'm saying, no, I listened to that diatribe and nothing about fixing this country and cleaning up this virus.
I hear you. It's going to be multiple issues, John. I'll tell you one issue in which there's a clear difference between the two major party candidates, Trump and also Biden, Republican and Democrat, and that's net neutrality. Don't you do business on the internet? Don't you do business using
Yes,
the
I
internet? Okay, then. So
Yes,
that's
yes,
one issue that you should be focused on, and one difference between the two candidates, and that is who's going to support a free and open internet. That's just one. That's just one. I'm not telling you that's what you should vote on. I'm just saying make that a priority and put that on your list of possible issues for the November election. That's all I'm saying. You're an entrepreneur. You do business on the internet. I do business on the internet. So let's support candidates across the board that support our entrepreneurial endeavors on the internet. That's just one thing. Instead of getting caught up on, some minutia.
I've always been in favor of protecting the internet and keeping it out of the hands of the stinking government that wants to tax the Facebook and all them other rascals didn't help things when they allowed the Russians just to profit so they can steal the election. That's another thing about that.
I know.
So, but the government has always, for years, tried to figure out a way how can we get our hands on that internet and make millions of dollars, and they couldn't figure it out until the election happened. And then after the election happened, we saw what Zuckerman and Facebook
they figured it out way before that. They figured it out way before that, way before the Obama administration. They tried then, but the Obama administration, again, Obama doesn't get a lot of credit, but again, I give him credit for that, for protecting the internet with net neutrality. But John, I got to make a move, man. I appreciate your call. I'll give you the last word.
All right. You have a nice day, and people, do not allow your kids to go back to school. Teach them at home. It's safer in either way until we get this mess cleaned up. Have a nice day.
You too, man. Have a nice day. That's Zawa right there. Well, let me see. That's easier said than done. Like, if you don't have kids, it's easy to say, well, keep your kids at home. But if you're a working single parent and you have younger children, let's say you got a first grader, keep them at home. Who's going to be with them? Let's say you got a kindergartner or a second grader or a third grader. The student is not old enough to be at home by themselves. What do you do? I mean, there is an element of daycare in the schools inherently. It's kind of baked into it when you're dealing with working parents. And we want parents to work, right? Because everybody's anti-welfare, right? They don't believe in a social safety net. So they want mom and dad to work. They want single dad to work. They want single mom to work. So mom and dad are working. Where are the children going to be? So, I mean, it's easier said than done. That's a very house-to-house complex issue and difficult decision that parents are going to have to make. So, let me see. Jordan writes, if teachers want to resist the training, they should not be allowed to teach in our schools. They can take a pay cut and go to the suburbs. I'm with you on that. Got to have some standards. And I'm glad to hear that there's people thinking the same way I'm thinking, that in a post-George Floyd world, every institution should be challenged in Cincinnati. Every single one of them, including the Hamilton County Prosecutor's Office. Did you see this? So, I mean, this is just so crazy. I was on, shout out to Joe Mallory. I was on Joe Mallory's Facebook page early this morning. He posted something that made me think like, oh man, that's interesting. So yesterday, your Hamilton County prosecutor, and once again, he just loves to use this free publicity, right? Joe Dieters needs to go. Okay. Of all the institutions in which we need a revolution in, the Hamilton County Prosecutor's Office is at the top of the list. So now he does a big press conference, right, yesterday, in which he says, well, we're going to get tough. These felonies. I think the quote was, they can hold their breath if they think we're going to drop the charges. As I understand it, one woman, if I'm wrong about this, set me straight, but as I understand it, is there one woman who was being charged with a felony because allegedly she spit some chewing gum at a police officer? Now, she's getting a felony for that. But if you're a Hamilton County Sheriff deputy and in the midst of a physical altercation where a person is basically subdued and you stomp on their face with your boots, you only get a misdemeanor charge for that, though. Make that make sense for me. How's that work? You spit some chewing gum at a police officer. Oh, we're going to throw the book at you. You better respect these officers. I'm not going to allow you to jeopardize the lives of our officers, right? Joe Dieter is so pro-officer, but is he pro-people? Is he pro-people? I don't know. Is that true? Let me see if I can put this online on the screen. I know Joe Mallory is a very factual man. I know that. I know this is interesting. You see, this is from his Facebook page. I want to put this up on the screen. You can see it for yourself. And then we'll go straight to the call here. I thought that was really interesting post. So you see this? He writes, this is 8 hours ago. Okay, Facebook fam. Well, first. Yeah, man. I mean, I'm not telling you who to vote for, but you do have an option in November. I hope people take it. 513-873-7134 if you want to share your thoughts this morning, because there is a clear difference, I think, in terms of the quality of justice. Like I said, I don't know what justice is. You know, you can leave your baby in a hot car and misremember and forget. You get no charges whatsoever. You get no charges. Okay, it's no. Oh, we have sympathy for you. You've had enough loss in your life, but yet you're supposed to be in charge of protecting children. I don't get it. Maybe you do. Let's go to the phones. Good morning and welcome to the show. Yo, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Nathan. Can you hear me?
I can't hear you.
Hey, good morning, DeWizzle here. How you feeling, bro?
I'm doing great, D Wizzle. Welcome to the show, man.
Thank you. Yeah, you're absolutely right, man. A few issues. The prosecutor's office has been a mess for a long time. I hope we do something about it. 15 years ago, we should have done something about it. When Fanon was going for it. So, yeah, it's disproportionately just all wrong and how we're being treated, and we're not getting what our taxpayer dollars pay for. So we definitely need to change that. Sorry about that. My schedule's been kind of different. So I've been listening to your rebroadcast. Heard a brother on there yesterday. I didn't know where he was going towards the end, and I'm glad he finally said, we need to make a decision for this presidential election because it's vital, it's important, and we don't have a choice at this juncture. I know it was painful for you, but I'm glad you held John's feet to the fire. He's a friend of the show. We listen to his entertainment. We endure his scapegoating as far as being a responsible voter. I'm glad you held his feet to the fire today. Because the point of the matter is we don't have any options. For those who sit back thinking, well, I don't like Biden, this, that, and the other. You don't have a choice. Like one comedian said, in 23 years, we're all going to be beige. It's not going to be black or white. But I think those who know that what's happening in 23 years, they're preparing to be the power structure for that period of time. So whoever we elect in this election is vitally important, because Trump's been in. He's selected over 200 federal judges he's seated up until this point, and if he gets another 4 years, he will do the same. And the point of the matter is, he's tapping on judges' shoulders, saying, "Hey, once you guys retire, because I want to put these 35-year-olds in place, so we'll have the power structure for the next 50 years." And so your vote today means that in 20 years, the judges he's already put in there, they will rule, and so your kids' will feel the impact of this, and I think up until this point, Nathan, is 80% of the judges he has put in there are all right-wing thinkers. His mindset. I think it's only one black judge out of all the judges he's put in there, and it's just going to it's just an attempt, to retain that power structure. And we all know legislators legislate, but it doesn't take much for someone to go to a court to have something upheld or thrown out. So if he has all of these people in there with his like mind and thinking, are they going to vote in favor of all the people or just their constituents? So I think it's vitally important to have, we can't sit back and say, hey, we're not going to vote because I don't like Biden. It's bigger than Biden. So what we need to do is plan for get Biden in there, and then we're going to have to fight him on this education piece, and just be ready to fight for whatever we want. But we have to get somebody in there. We can't sit back and just let these guys do what they do, because we're going to pay for it. Our kids are going to pay for it if we do that. So I just wanted to
I think
chime in on that.
Yeah, I also think that the black community and black voter is the black electorate. We need to be adopting long-term strategies on all levels. Like, conservatives have been super focused on the Supreme Court, and that's why it's paying dividends. It might be a 5, 10, 15, 20-year battle. I think the black electorate should be doing the same thing, looking down the road 10, 15, 20 years and creating sustainable and long-term political and social strategies to get what we want, because that's what everybody else is doing.
Absolutely.
That's what they're doing.
Absolutely.
And it's working for them. It's not a coincidence that the Supreme Court is overwhelmingly conservative. There's been plans put in place for 20 years now, and now it's coming to fruition.
Just look at the experience level, and I like to hear some of your attorneys weigh in on this, because he's putting people in there who never passed the brief, don't really have any experience in the federal judicial system at all. It's just folks who want to be loyal to him. So, I just wanted to throw that out there. We don't have a choice here. I don't care if you like Biden and you're sitting back on your ass talking about, I want a better candidate. You don't have a better choice. Get in there and get your, as you just stated, your team together. And I love when we had the first black president, Obama, but we sat down and we was amazed by this first black president. Every other group came up, asking for something and demanding something, and they got it. but we were just so at the inauguration for 8 years. We just set out.
Right.
So get Biden in there, and then have a team to get ready to whoop his butt when you see him going in ways that don't represent you. That's what we have to do. Strategize. Exactly what you just said. So,
Right. Long-term thinking.
Yeah.
Hey,
great.
Thank you so much, D. Wizzle. Have a great weekend, man.
Hey, you too, man.
Yeah,
All right.
most def. Always great to hear from that brother. Good brother right now. Right there, one of the original choppers. Appreciate you. Long-term strategies, man. I remember being back in college in the 90s, and that's where my political thinking, formation, and philosophy started. Just sitting over UC's library, and that was a little bit before, well, it wasn't before, but it was before it got really popular, the internet. So people were still reading magazines. I would sit over at the library and just be reading magazines and getting all of these thoughts from outside the 513 area, because sometimes, in the 513 we can have very incestuous thoughts as everybody's thinking the same way. So I started reading, Village Voice, started reading even conservative, newspapers, magazines, periodicals. Man, what's happening now, they was planning back then. This ain't new. This was the plan. This was long-term strategy. These social conservatives have been long-term strategizing about the Supreme Court. They've been long time building and planning for these things to happen on all levels. That's why it's happening. It's not a coincidence. They made it happen. Well, we can make it happen. You know what I'm saying? I said the same thing about the Tea Party. When the Tea Parties popped up, what did I say? If they can create a Tea Party, why don't we create a Tea Party? He made the point about Obama. I took super heat because I agree with Cornel West and Tavis Smiley. They were right. They were 100% right. This black folks stopped listening to me. I ain't gonna mess with that Nathan Ivey. He think he's so smart. Talking about some Dr. Cornel West was right. He was right. I don't give a damn if you black or white. What are you gonna do that actually matters? If you're not gonna do something that actually matters, then you don't really actually matter. But in general, and I can't say it all across the board because I ain't alone in that. There was a lot of black folks that felt the same way. Black folks, like D. Wizzle said, was forever at the inauguration. They never left the inauguration. The beauty of it, they was in Black Camelot for 8 years. Never left. And when black folks in the media or other folks stood up and said, you know what? What are you going to do, Obama? Don't be talking about my president like that. Oh, you just a hater. Some of that same mentality, I've seen it about that mural in Cincinnati. That same mentality is here. Don't be thinking. Stop thinking. Just feel. Don't be thinking too much. You a hater. No, I'm just thinking through the process as an intelligent, conscious black man. You should be doing the same thing. Just saying. People fell asleep. There was Black Camelot. I like seeing Michelle in the first black family. It was cool. It was super dope. My daughter, that was the president that she knew. It was cool. But, in terms of equity policy and tangibles, I think we all can agree there could have been more, and there would have been more if the black community had possed up and put together some real political organization to put real pressure on the Obama administration. Pressure don't mean you don't care. Pressure don't mean you don't like somebody. Pressure just means you're trying to get some measurable outcomes that really matter to you and yours. So he's right about that. I said the same thing about Biden. I mean, I hear people saying we don't have a choice, and I get where they're coming, but we do have a choice. You do have choices. Bump that. You got choices. You can send a message. It might be a hard pill to swallow, another 4 years of Trump, but it would send a message. It would certainly send a message to the Democrat Party and any Democrat candidate to represent in a way that really matters in terms of equity, policy, and tangibles, other than just the fact that we like you better than the other guy. So I'll leave it like that. And then I got to flow in. Oh, man, it's over 10 o'clock. Man, I didn't realize that it went that far in the show. You see here, Rosemary writes, you will see a spike. The kids need to be in school. We cannot continue to have them fall further behind. Parents are not as prepared as teachers to educate these children when most themselves are not educated. This being new age technology and curriculum, i.e. new math, spot words. I hear you. I hear what you're saying, Rosemary. But I also feel like, you got that digital academy. So it's not necessarily the parents per se, but it's also they're getting the learning through the digital academy. I don't know. It's a tough spot to be in, man. This COVID-19 is a stress test for so many different levels, personally, professionally, in terms of our school systems, in terms of our social systems. It's a stress test. We're either going to get out of it. We're going to either emerge from this better and stronger and wiser, or dumber, fatter, and lazier. Okay, not to offend anyone, but that's either what's going to happen. You know what I'm saying? It's all about what you bring, the energy you bring, I guess. Let's go back to the phones. Good morning and welcome to the show.
Good morning, Mr. Ivy. This is your number one fan, your West Side connection out here on the left coast, the People's Republic of California. Mr. Ivy, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing good. Real quick, I'm going to make this fast because on radio, on podcast, brevity is the soul of wit. I got 3 words, Mr. Ivy. Build back better. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I think I understand what you're talking about. What are you talking about?
Okay, that is the new plan that was released yesterday by the desperate Democrats candidate, Sleepy Joe Biden, at a speech from the teleprompter with birds chirping in the background. Mr. Ivy, nobody talked about it. This should be your number one topic on your show today.
Oh, really?
The agenda of the Obama-Biden remix, which will also be known as now speaking for all of black Democrats. Where are the elected officials? They're not saying anything about this stuff. So, Mr. Ivy,
what do you think
again,
about the plan?
3 words. Mr. Ivy, you don't want my opinion because we got plenty of time to break it down, to chop it up, to flip it, and rub it down. Because, again, all it is, like I said, it's the Obama-Biden remix.
Well, maybe
read it, Mr. Ivy.
Everybody loves a good remix.
Yeah, well, it depends on who's on the remix. Because if it's the same old people, why is it called a remix? Okay, but that's all I'm going to say, Mr. Ivy. I just wanted to get that in. Those 3 words. Hashtag build back better, also known as a bunch of bullshit. Oops, I'm sorry. Drop Squad
right?
52. Dropping science to anyone who wants to catch it. Be safe in them streets, choppers. It's Friday. Ain't got no job. And you better have on your mask. Peace.
Appreciate you, brother. Take it easy. We'll go ahead and rack them. Quote, it's time corporate America pay their fair share of taxes, Biden said, reiterating his plan to raise the current corporate tax rate back to 28%. It was during the Obama administration from the current 21%. Okay. Like I said, I mean, I wanted to get into the meat and potatoes of it. I mean, I'm vaguely aware enough to really, give you a few thoughts about it. I can share a link with you, but all you got to do is type in Build Back Better, and you can read it for yourself. From what I understand, the limited amount I understand, I don't have a problem with it. It seems to be on point with me, but, Drop is a pro-Trump guy. He's going to find a problem with it one way or the other. Let's go back to the phones. Good morning and welcome to the show.
What's going on, Nick?
Hey, what up? What up? Mason Mahler, what's up, man?
Let me ask you, is a hashtag just as non of a tangible as a mural?
I would say so, yeah. Unless it's a
Okay.
hashtag to a specific policy that's being put in place.
Right. Did you hear about the whatever progressive agenda that Bernie and Joe had started this week?
Is that the same
have you
one,
talked
Build
about
Back
that?
Better, or is that something different?
It's something the same thing, but it's about an economic recovery plan.
Okay.
Nate, I felt you speaking to me, man, because you know that I was, me and you, we agree on, I would say about 95% of things, but you know that I'll take that 1% out of that 4% that we disagree with that goes directly towards the criticism of Tavis and Cornel West. Now, Nate, you and I both know that I honestly believe there are certain things that you couldn't do at Congress that if you and I were pushing the ideal pedal, we would try to enforce, but we actually know that you couldn't do this given what Mitch McConnell and the opposition that he had in the Republican House. This goes back to Donnie's B whole thing about how it's not as much about the president per se. It's about taking control over the Senate and making sure that people like Mitch McConnell are voted out. Because this goes back to something you talked about earlier with the Supreme Court. They actually had a Supreme Court justice ready to go, Nate. What was his name? Merrick Garland, I think is what his name was. I know it was
Merrick Garland.
And who held up his nomination?
It was the Senate Majority Leader.
Mitch McConnell.
Yeah.
So and I'll say it again. Now, give me you mentioned who was I can't forget the caller that called in, but he talked about how everybody ran to Obama and he got done for them. Give me the African American version of a DACA. Oh, and by the way, I don't know if people notice or not because I know that the face of DACA are Hispanic people, but there are plenty of people of color that are like black like you and I that also took advantage of DACA. But give me your black African American DACA program that Obama should have passed.
I follow you.
Hello?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, I don't have one.
Well, I mean, because we have these conversations all the time. They talk about, what he did for the gays. Black people can marry who they want, right? This goes back. Have you seen the Michael Che comedy on Netflix? Guys from Saturday Night Live?
I think so. Maybe I caught it last year or early this year, maybe.
Okay, well, he actually had an older video that was, I think it was maybe 9 years ago, or maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And he talked about how, gay people they were asking for equal rights. Now think about it. He said that. He said, think about that. Their baseline is equal rights. People want to be treated like everyone else. And then he said, but guess what? There's some guy out there talking about, nah, dude, we can't do that. He said, black people ask for civil rights. Just be civil. Let's talk and turn off the damn hoses. Those are the baselines that we had to start off with. Nate, I work from the position that, actually up until the passage of the 64 Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act back in the day, it started to become a more perfect union. Up until then, everything else was BS. Because the one fundamental right that you have as an American is what, Nate? That we all share. The right to vote.
Oh, okay.
The right to vote. That's the one. I said it. I've been saying this for years. That's the one time where I walk into the booth with my, with my Chuck D S1W T-shirt on, and I can stick my middle finger to the government.
That's in
and
question.
Vote for who I want to.
Yeah, that's in question.
And vote for.
with gerrymandering and legal voter suppression, that's in question.
Well, see, this is the thing, though, Nate. How many times has the Democratic Congress tried to pass funding to secure our vote? And what? Voted down or not even been able to come up to a vote in the Senate. People don't understand civics. They know that the Senate is the more deliberative arm of the government. They're going to take all day. But Mitch McConnell is not even letting certain things. There are over 300 bills that the progressive Democrats have passed in the House. Can't even make the floor.
Right.
Again, this goes back to Donnie B when she talked about, Mitch McConnell, his ouster and trying to get Amy McGrath. She might be one of the most important pieces out there, people that get voted in.
Well,
I truly,
I think that's a challenge and that's an opportunity. Like if people are concerned about the way the federal government works and we realize there's a gridlock because of the U.S. Senate, then we need to posse up and start organizing to make some serious efforts in our individual states to challenge who the senators are.
But that's happening, Nate. And again, I mean, I'm a nerd, man. I'm a self-identified, self-prescribed nerd, so I watch this stuff. I mean, man, I got the double TVs going. MSNBC on one and CNN on another one. So I pay attention to this stuff. And, Nate, Susan Collins is in trouble. There are actually, if you go to Nate Phil 538, there's actual predictions. And I listened to Carville the other day on with Brian Williams on MSNBC. I think the Dems are going to take the Senate. I really do. I think they're going to keep the House. I think they're going to take the Senate. I think there's a very good chance that the brother Jamie Harrison down in South Carolina, he beats Lindsey Graham, believe it or not. And think about it. South Carolina probably has the most organized African-American voting group and political system, probably even more so than any other place in America. You remember, that's James Clyburn territory. James Clyburn was the one that sparked, set it off through the Get Lit party for Joe Biden to get him started after New Hampshire and Iowa. Am I lying or flying?
You flying. I'm flying. You flying on that. I feel you.
So, Nate, it's sometimes, man, I watch politics, man, and I pay attention to it, and then I listen to Cincinnati politics. Man, it's like we still stuck in the set. Like, we're out of the 60s, but we're still in the early 70s.
Well, that means
that's how I feel sometimes.
It's an opportunity to educate then. It's an opportunity, to teach people.
It truly is. I agree with you there. And let me say this, because your girl formally announced last night that she's taking over my man's spot on 7 o'clock on MSNBC.
Yeah, Joy Reid.
It's going to be called The Reid Report. But I saw you trying to throw a little shade not throw a little shade, because I don't want to be like the mural people. But I had to snap back when you said she needs to start her own independent media. Did you see what she said last night? Chris Matthews was actually her mentor. The very first time she was on TV on MSNBC was on Chris Matthews' show. She filled in for Chris.
Okay.
So Chris took her underneath his wings. I didn't know that, and I'm a huge Chris Matthews fan. You know that.
Well, I think the name of the show is called the Readout. It's not the Reid Report. It's called the Readout.
The Readout. That's what I meant. The Readout. Yeah, but she announced it yesterday. There's always been speculation. But apparently she went ahead and signed the contract, and on yesterday's show,
I'm happy for her.
She talked about it.
I'm happy for her. She's been putting in work for a while. I'm happy as hell. That's great for her. I mean, I think she's good at what she does. And she's every bit as good as Rachel Maddow. She's just as good as Rachel Maddow.
Oh, absolutely.
And
Rachel is great now. Rachel gets into the weeds of the topic. That's what I like about her.
And she was like that way back when she was on Air America before she even got on MSNBC. She used to do a show on Air America. It was an all liberal talk radio network. She was just as She was just as deep then, and that was audio, as she is now. And she's doing like the video element of it. But I'm happy for Joy Reid. I stand by what I said, though. I mean, if she really wants to be appreciated, she should start her own thing. There's nothing like doing your own thing.
But she has a big platform on MSNBC. You have to give it to her. I mean, I watched AM Joy for forever. But another thing, a lot of people criticize MSNBC and their lack of diversity on air. And actually,
and rightly so.
If you watch MSNBC, they have a lot of diversity on air.
On a weekday?
I mean, even Craig Melvin is starting to get more of a time slot. Jason Johnson actually took over on the weekends. That's the guy that used to have the crazy looking frohawk or whatever the hell he had on his head from the griot. Yeah. Now he has a permanent spot there. Yeah, they told him to get you a ball fade and look more professional, and I love that about him, because I used to criticize him like, dude, come on. You're on Meet the Press.
The lack of diversity was not on the weekends. They always had, Melissa Harris Perry, they had Joy Reid, Al Sharpton. It's the weekday, the prime time, that was the lack of diversity. So I'm glad to see they got a sister.
Craig Melvin is on during the day. He's on during the day now.
True.
Like I said, they're making Jason Johnson fill in, I guess, for when Joy is going to leave. I think he might be set for to take over Joy's spot, even though they've been they had Tiffany, I can't think of her, a real pretty light-skinned woman with the short haircut. She filled in for Joy during the week last week. I noticed that. And they actually had Zelina Maxwell. She's also been filling in a little bit and becoming more prominent. So that wave is out there. They're going to get those voices out there, Nate. And, again, as a big MSNBC viewer, I love it, man. I want to see it out there. I want to see more voices out there, even more than, because you have to admit that they always have many black panelists on there.
They do.
I mean, I would like to see Daniel Moody Mills? She goes off on people. I love that sister.
Yeah.
She's another one I want to see get more prime time out there. I think Bakari Sellers. They're saying that his name is out there. Somebody that might be part of a new show. Let's get a brother out there, a very opinionated brother out there.
Yeah, I like Bakari Sellers. He's cool. I'm down with that.
Yeah, so I just wanted to throw that out there, Nate, man. Your boy dropping garbage. Little alt drop X Exotica. I just like this guy kills me.
Exotica. Little drop X Exotica. Okay.
Little X drop X Exotica. Yeah, he got it all in there. But I just wanted to end the weekend on a good note, man. You know what I say, man? 2020 vision in the end, Nate. I hope they getting what I'm spending. These especially. You have a good one, brother. Thanks for taking my call.
Thanks for making the call. Have a great weekend. That makes them all right there. And him and Drop, man. It is what it is. Yin and the yang. Damn, it's 10:30. I could talk for another 2 hours, but I won't do that. I've got to make a move this morning. I really appreciate you. If you haven't signed the petition, please sign the petition. Over 10,000. We're on our way to 5,000. I anticipate we'll meet that by next week. And urging City Council to put protections in place to protect Black and brown people from reckless and biased police calls here in the greater Cincinnati area. This will happen. I got a chance to speak with a state rep yesterday, and I think there is an opportunity at the state level as well to draft a bill and some language. So at the state's level, we can create some protections for Black and brown people. Other states are following our lead, and other states are already doing this. I mean, this petition's been out for over a month now. So if you haven't signed the petition, please sign it. If you have signed it, please share it and send a message that we should protect Black families at all costs here in the greater Cincinnati area. Also coming up today at 12:30 in approximately 2 hours is the Just Me podcast with Donnie B. She looks at the world in comments with a very, very serious edge. She talks about politics, Black culture, news events from a Cincinnati perspective. You can find the show on Sin Digital Media and also join the Facebook group, the Is It Just Me Facebook group. You can interact with Donnie directly. Have an excellent rest of your day. And I'll be back with you on Monday morning, bright and early. Thank you to my guest, Mike Morosky, for giving us some insights in the process and what to expect. Looks like the door is open. If you got some input, give them the input. Give them the input and then hold them accountable if they don't use it or if you get ignored. Let us know. Let the media know. But here's an opportunity to help craft racial equity policy for Cincinnati Public Schools. And we'll have to see how, if you don't get involved when you got great ideas, then you're a part of the problem. Okay. If you got great ideas, share them. Okay. Share them. And the process starts today. And from what Mike said, it looks like it's going to be a lengthy process, maybe a lengthy conversation between the community and also the Cincinnati School Board. And that's exactly what's necessary, is needed. Again, in a post-George Floyd world, this just can't happen. And, we found out today, finally, the Inquirer caught up to independent Black media because we broke the story about Bruce Hoffbauer on this particular platform, on this show. And finally, the Inquirer has written about it. It's a really interesting way that Kevin Grasha wrote this story. To me, he wrote the story in a way to try to exonerate Bruce Hoffbauer, who killed an unarmed man back in the 90s, and included a quote from Bruce Hoffbauer's own words, but there's nothing else to corroborate it. Allegedly, the mother of Willie Brown, in the words of Bruce Hoffbauer, didn't blame him or wasn't mad at the police. I thought, can we corroborate this somehow? But his mother has died. So we're supposed to take the word of the white male police officer who killed an unarmed man about what the mother of the man who he killed thinks. And that's responsible journalism. The fact that they're so late in reporting on this story and also the nature of it just really underscores the necessity of why we need Black independent media in Cincinnati now more than ever before. All the realest stuff is happening on the internet with independent media, in my humble opinion. But you have to make your own opinion and your own decision. But thank you so much for being here. I'll be back with you bright and early on Monday morning. We'll chop it up on everything that's going on. Have an excellent Friday. Remember our motto: winners focus on winning. Losers focus on winners. So stay focused and stay winning, and we'll talk real soon. I'm Nathan Ivey, and I'm out.
Stereophonic sound for the home is recorded on two separate tracks, each one giving special emphasis to certain sections of the orchestra, as heard from those positions. Now, when played back simultaneously on two separate systems, the sounds are blended together to achieve a new dimension in sound impossible to obtain in a monaural recording.